Hi. Tonight I'd like to share a little bit with you about what's the point. The past few posts I've shared some of my experiences not only with acceptance, but also with positive action, which is preceded by acceptance, and which hopefully, and at least in my experiences has proved to be quite true, is hopefully it leads to positive outcomes. But tonight I'd like to get a little more in depth on why. What is the point? And I can't speak for what the point is for anyone else, but I know for me what it all amounts to. The one thing that I want almost more than anything is peace. In here, it's serenity. And I can't quite put into words what that is to me, but it helps me to see, helps me to visualize things. And I heard one person use this analogy, and it really helped me to understand what serenity was for myself. And so, the way they described it is imagining that I'm in a rowboat, and I'm on a river, and I'm trying so hard with every fiber of my being, every muscle, everything I have, to the point of exhaustion, to row upstream. As hard as I can, I'm straining and sweating and gasping for air and rowing and flailing. And I look over at the shore and I see that no matter how hard I try, I'm still slowly going downstream. And I'm fighting the current, I'm fighting, and I try even harder. And I look over again and I'm slowly losing ground. And for them, the way they conveyed their message and their story, which helped me so much to have an understanding of my own, was that serenity is when they put the oars in the boat and lean back and flow with the current. And that's my understanding of serenity in a nutshell. And certainly it manifests and takes shape in my life in different ways at different times. But more often than not, that's it. Is that despite any circumstances, despite anything that's going on around me, is that I'm able to put my oars in my boat and flow with life. Because so much of my existence was spent fighting life, fighting everything that was going on around me. And I still do that all the time. But when I'm in a state of serenity, I'm flowing. And I'm not fighting it. And many times I don't understand it as I'm experiencing it. I just know that it's something good. And I certainly understand it when I'm not experiencing it. Because as I said, I fall back into that place all the time of fighting life, of trying to row upstream. And so, for me, serenity is one of the most desired outcomes. And as I mentioned, in a previous post, is that I firmly believe, at least I do in my own experience, and I've tested this theory quite a few times, and I'm sure I will continue to do so, that I can't control outcomes. So, in saying that I can't control outcomes, that also applies to serenity. I can't give myself serenity. There's no formula that means I will receive this much serenity for this amount of time if I take this, and this actions. But what I find is that people have suggested to me so many contrary actions, actions which at first sight or second sight or even the 100th time I've revisited them and thought about them, they don't seem like they would produce positive outcomes, and certainly don't seem like they would produce serenity or something like gratitude, positive states of being for me. However, when I'm willing to take those contrary actions, and when I'm willing to follow through with them, I typically find that to some extent, and it's usually to the extent that I need, certainly not that I want, I receive serenity. I receive some form of grace by carrying out these actions. And it's incredible, and I can't explain it. So, what's the point? The point for me is to have peace of mind and a quiet heart. There was so much of my life that I spent fighting everything and everyone. And these fights weren't external. They didn't necessarily take shape as me lashing out at people, although that did happen. More often than not, what these fights were they were going on internally, in my mind. And I would be waging wars in my head all day, every day. And And it didn't necessarily matter what it was that brought about this struggle, this internal struggle, because it could have been any number of things, and it was. And most of them were inconsequential. But what I found is that day in and day out, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. And it had nothing to do with physical exertion. It simply was that I was waging a war in my head all day long, and I was defeated. And when I'm fighting life, I'm fighting a losing battle. And I really don't have much of an understanding of life today. I knew then that life was something infinitely too big for me, and it had me defeated, and I couldn't stand it. And what I know today is that life is something that's infinitely too big for me, and that on my own it has me defeated. But the shift in perspective, this paradigm shift for me has occurred in that I no longer can't stand life. I no longer hate life. The only thing I really know about it is that it's a tremendous gift. And I want to be part of life, and I want to be present for life. That's one of those positive outcomes that I seek. And I find that never am I more present than when I'm in a state of serenity. So that is why I miserably attempt sometimes, and have plenty of failed attempts and examples of what not to do, to seek out positive actions which will hopefully leverage into a state of positive well-being. And, serenity isn't specifically tied to my emotional well-being, or my physical well-being, or my spiritual well-being, or my mental well-being for that matter. It draws from all of them, some more than others on certain days, but on any given day it's pulling from each of those foundational cornerstones, and I've written about what those mean to me, those particular cornerstones, and how they interact with each other and rely upon each other. And so as we move forward, I'd like to take quite a few opportunities to discuss what serenity is to me, in the hopes that you'll share your experiences with serenity and share your understanding of serenity, and whether or not it is something that you value and something that you seek out. And if it is, how you find it. And if it's not, what are the things that you're pursuing? What is the positive action that you're taking? And what are the desired outcomes you hope to realize in your own life? And I hope that by sharing these understandings, that we can share an understanding of how to build a better life. And as I've mentioned these past few posts, that if we do that, I strongly believe, that not only will we see the similarities in each other, which I believe are far greater than the differences, but we can begin to understand how to build a better world together. Thank you.